Hi, it's Jeff Altman, the Big Game Hunter, and welcome to Career Coach Office Hours for December 17th, 2021. Twice a week, I field questions or reply to questions from viewers and talk with you about job search, hiring more effectively, management, leadership, and different workplace related issues. I take questions via email at thebiggamehunter@gmail.com. In the subject line, put the phrase office hours so this way I can spot what it's about and retrieve it when I need it. Also, on the day of the show, you can put a message into chat. See, it says put a message into chat. And whether you're on YouTube, Facebook Live, or LinkedIn, you can put a message in chat and I'll respond to it during the show. So, again, if you have a question for me, put it in chat. I'd love to help you. And I have a number of questions I received. I'm going to be back on Tuesday. I think I'll do a Friday show on the 24th, but I'll figure that out by Tuesday. Tuesday at 9:15, Fridays at 9 a.m. And I hope to be able to help you. And I'll also say, No BS Job Search Advice Radio, which is my podcast, has been on for 11 years, 2,200 episodes. If you happen to be a listener to the show, I'm going to take a break beginning on the 23rd until January 3rd. So no shows or no new shows during that time, but it's a 5-day-a-week podcast normally that I've been doing for 11 years. I can take a few days off during Christmas, right? So with that, let me go to the first question I have. And again, if you have one for me, just put it into chat. I'd be happy to respond to it, okay? Question number one. What am I supposed to put on an application when it asks for my salary expectations? I suspect you know what the term salary expectations means, right? So when you see that, they're trying to get an idea of what you're looking for in the way of money. But I don't know. I want to get as much as I can. That leaves you in the position of putting a range. And I'm always hesitant because, first of all, I hate the idea that you're applying for a job through an applicant tracking system because it's called the black hole for a reason, right? So why would you be doing that? But you are doing it. That's why I'm responding to this question that if you could get to the hiring manager or be referred by someone, you'd have an idea of the range for the position. So for now, you would indicate on the application what you actually are looking for, which requires you to make a choice about what the range is. And then from there, in the body of the message, you might indicate, I indicated that I had an expectation of this or that, but all I have is the job description to go on. I haven't spoken to the hiring manager, haven't spoken to the team, don't have a real idea of what the role and responsibilities are other than what's in the job description, which is rarely completely accurate. So I've put in a range. I may be flexible on the downside, but I may also be flexible on the upside so that don't hold me to that number. And let's talk about it during the interviews. And what you're trying to do is indicate, okay, you wanted a number, I gave you a number, but don't consider that the real number. Got it? So you got to give them something because it's usually a required field on applications. And once you're doing that, you got to hedge it in some way so that this way they're not treating this as an absolute. Okay, let's go to the next question. What do I do when a leader doesn't listen? I wish there was an example of how they didn't listen. So I'll just simply say, when leaders don't listen, they may be preoccupied. The question comes down to, is this a habit on their part that they don't listen? Are they listening but can't do what they're being asked to do? So they really are listening but ignoring it. Follow? Listening but ignoring. Um, what I would do is have a private conversation with my boss and say, you know, there was a situation recently where you missed on something. Someone said this, and it's as though it went in one ear and out the other. And it seemed like you didn't get their point, didn't hear it, what have you. So I just wanted to check, was that a choice on your part where you knew that couldn't be done, or did you just miss that? Because most people who make it to a manager level and above do listen, but they're pulled in lots of different directions and they have lots of thoughts and they may not be completely in sync with yours. So check in with them about whether in that situation or in other situations they were just in la la land and not really listening, or they did listen, or they chose to ignore. Why they chose to ignore, less confrontational, but ask them about that. I'm curious what prompted you to choose to ignore that, and learn from them, and consider it an opportunity to add to your management tool belt a technique that may be helpful to you at times. Like, I'm not a believer in ignoring people all the time, but on occasion, just because someone asks for something doesn't mean that they really need to have it addressed. Sometimes you should ignore it because it was pretty dumb or it's not possible and you don't want to offend them in some way. But you've got to have a conversation with your boss to really understand what was going on for them. And if they missed on something, if they have a bad habit of not listening, help them. Don't be confrontational about it. Help them with that. So this way, they may treat you as an ally in their development rather than a pain in the rear, as some people might. In a job interview, what is a good answer to why do you want to leave your current job? Let me start off with bad answers. I want to make a lot more money. Not a good answer. I hate my boss. Not a good answer. I'm being treated badly there. You can't leave it at that. You got to, elaborate and really talk about what's going on that's problematic. So to me, a better answer is, I've been doing the same thing since I joined, and it doesn't look like there's going to be any opportunities for me to learn or grow. I like the team, like my manager, nice people. I enjoy working there, but it's still a job and I want to do interesting stuff. I've been there for 4 years, 2 years, 8 months, whatever it is. And I expected by now I'd be doing something different because that's what they told me. I wouldn't just be doing this for the rest of my life. I'd be learning new things and doing new things. But that isn't the way it's materialized. So I'm looking in order to get some interesting work and not do the same repetitive tasks over and over again. And if they turn around to you and say, our work is pretty repetitive too, you have the ability to say, it's different repetitive work, which lets them know that initially you're okay, but then from there you explore, and is that what all the job is for the next 20 years of my life? Oh, no, you'll learn new things. Like what? What sort of rotational opportunities exist? Well, it depends on your performance. Of course, it depends on my performance. But some organizations are very happy to have a problem solved and never think about it again because someone does a good job, and they don't really promote because the problem is solved with this person. I don't want to be so indispensable in a job that I don't have promotional opportunities. And that because I'm very capable, I'm being passed over for new things. So again, it becomes an opportunity for conversation so that in this way, you're not focusing in on, I hate my boss, the money's terrible, nonsense along those lines. You're focusing on something work related and can get into a conversation to understand what the role is. Now, if you've moved, That's a different scenario where you can talk about, since the time I went to work for this firm, I've relocated. I'm now 2.5 hours away. Well, why did you move 2.5 hours away? It's what was affordable for me. I'm not making a lot of money, and I bought a house or we moved to an apartment in an area that I could afford. The commute is too long. I knew that right away. And thus, I'm looking for something closer to home. Got it? So, talk about the realities of your situation, enter into conversations. You'll get a closer feel for your future boss, and it'll help you with decisions about these jobs. I just want to remind anyone who's lurking that if you've got a question for me, put it into chat. I'd be very happy to answer it. After the show, you can always email me at thebiggamehunter@gmail.com. In the subject line, put the phrase office hours. This way I know what it's about and I can respond to it after the show or on the next show, I should say. Okay, here's the next question. Looks like most of my questions today, other than that one about leaders not listening, are about job search. Okay. Should a candidate approach an executive search firm? Usually, when someone asks this question, they're not really talking about an executive search firm. They're talking about a contingency recruiter who's saying, we do executive search, and they're trying to puff themselves up. And they're not really an executive search firm. So, for a firm that does contingency recruiting, by all means, approach them. If you're referred to someone there, name drop the person who recommended you, and very simply reach out, have a conversation, see what they have available, network your way to competent recruiters. Real executive search firms rarely want to hear from you. Now, there are exceptions, but if you're at the level that I think you are, they certainly don't want to hear from you. You're way too junior for them. They're looking for executive leaders. That's what they're hired to locate. They're not there to find staff people jobs. They fill positions at an executive level for different firms. And as such, approaching them is a waste of time. What you want to do is to build your reputation and build your presence through writing, speaking, interviews that you do, things along those lines, so they can discover you. Have a great LinkedIn profile that represents what it is you do, because many of them use LinkedIn as for basic research and then do Google in order to go in deeper as to your credentials. But fundamentally, if you are at a staff level, don't waste your time unless you're contacting a contingency recruiting firm. And if you're contacting an executive search firm, you're also probably wasting your time, because the reality is they're in the business of filling jobs. Contingency firms are too, but they're open to having conversations with people. But executive search firms are hired to fill particular positions. They are paid in advance and at the time of presentation of a short list of candidates, and then upon conclusion. Most of the time, they don't want to hear from civilians. They don't want to receive unsolicited resumes. It is spam to them. Don't waste your time. Another question from someone is, should I take a new job when I wasn't looking for one? I shake my head when I see stuff like this, because the only way to answer this is to say, only if the job makes sense for you. And the fact that you weren't looking for a job is irrelevant to the equation. If you want to get ahead, people get ahead by being alert to opportunities. That doesn't just happen when they're actively looking for a job. Opportunities, I'm going to do a little joke here. Ready? That was opportunity knocking. Would you answer the door for it if it knocked? Well, I'm being cute here, but the goal is when an opportunity presents itself to you that makes sense, you act on it. If it doesn't make sense, don't act on it. Don't be an employee who's who's passive. You're in charge of your career. If you're not interested in changing jobs, that's okay. And listen to what people say. Listen to opportunities when presented. You may listen to something and decide that doesn't make sense for me and move on. Or you may hear something terrific and decide, wow, that's really a great opportunity for me. And you may get an offer that may increase your comp a lot or reduce your commute or give you a chance to learn a lot or work for even better people and with even better people. Why wouldn't you listen to that? Like I said, I shake my head when I hear questions like this. I went for a job interview over a week ago and have not heard anything. I forgot to ask what their timeline was for the job. Does that mean I probably didn't get it? You're a junior person. Oops, mouse dropped. Sorry. You're a junior person, and that's obvious. So the answer is it doesn't mean anything other than they weren't ready to get back to you. Send them an email, send the person you were in conversations with an email that says very simply, what would you, I haven't heard from you since my interview on the fill in the blank date. I want to get an idea of your timeline for next steps. Sorry if this is inconvenient. I'll follow your guidance. So that way that gives them a chance to get back to you. And if they don't get back to you the first time, send them one more message that's a forward of this one. The subject line is, are you okay? Then the next one says, the message says, I forwarded this message to you. It probably got lost in your inbox. Again, not trying to be difficult, just want to get an idea of your timeline for next steps. You'll probably get a response back making excuses for why they didn't get back to you and giving you an honest answer for their timeline. So it doesn't mean that you've been ruled out. You don't know how long they're planning on interviewing for this round. Next to last question, how do I negotiate for more vacation time? By negotiating for more vacation time. So firms often have policy for vacation. They say 2 weeks for the first 5 years, 3 weeks for years 5 through 10, whatever it is. And the way to negotiate is to negotiate. I'm looking for an increase in the vacation. We can't give you an increase. This is a company-wide policy. And could you be a little flexible if I did a few extra days from time to time over the course of the year instead of it being 3 weeks at one time? Is there a way that we can resolve this? What can you trade them in order to get extra time? But the missing piece is you've got to negotiate. You've got to open yourself up to things and be prepared for a dialogue. It's not like you're going to ask for, I need 3 weeks, and they're going to suddenly go, okay. Again, you've got to negotiate. That's the fact of it. Last question for today. I had a job interview, and I was so nervous that my voice was shaking, and I could not give good answers to questions. They said they'd call me for a second interview. I have a profile for this job, but can my lack of stress management make them think I don't? Of course. You didn't answer questions correctly. And the result winds up being, from their standpoint, you didn't perform. So it's not necessarily your stress management that's the issue. It's how you performed on the interview. And that's all they have to go by. So with that, could your anxiety have gotten in the way? You betcha. You betcha it could have gotten in the way. And it wouldn't surprise me if it had. So don't put yourself in the position of thinking that because they said you'll have a second interview and you haven't heard back and, that you're off the hook. All they have to go by is your performance at the meeting. And if you didn't show up, you probably lost the opportunity. That's the way firms conduct themselves. I know when I was doing recruiting and was interviewing people, if people didn't show up in the interview for me, I thought to myself, how are they going to show up with my client? I'm easy. All I care about is have they done this job? And, are they someone who I feel comfortable representing to this organization? Employers are even tighter. They have they're the immediate buyer. They want to know that you have the skills and requirements for the position. And if you didn't show it at the interview, the fact that you were nervous is the least of it. When people tell me nervous, it gives me the idea that they didn't execute and they didn't show themselves professionally well. So you probably lost this, is the reality to it. I'm Jeff Altman. This is Career Coach Office Hours for December 17th, 2021. Hope you enjoyed today's show. If you did and you're watching on YouTube, LinkedIn Live, Facebook Live, wherever you are, click the like button, share it, do something to let people know it was worthwhile. In addition, if you're interested in one-on-one coaching, you can visit my website, which is thebiggamehunter.us, and schedule time for a free discovery call or schedule time for coaching. Also at the site, I've got a great blog with thousands of posts and information that will help you. It's not personalized for you, which is why I always point to coaching. The site has also has information about my services and my courses and a variety of things that I can do. So go exploring on the site. You'll learn a lot about what I can help you with. Lastly, connect with me on LinkedIn at linkedin.com/IN/the Big Game Hunter. Have a terrific day, and most importantly, be great. Take care.